Okay, so here we are on Lac Serreire, fishing in the middle swim, left bank. I want to talk a little bit about long distance fishing. There's quite a few swims on this lake, this one included, where very long range fishing is an option. Not always needed, but it's definitely sometimes the best way to catch them. They're often out in that kind of middle area. It's another area like snag fishing where people, if you're not experienced with it, you're not used to doing it, especially at these kind of ranges, which we can, when I say long range, you're 150, 170 yards sometimes. Those kind of ranges, a lot of people aren't used to fishing, and it's easy to make a few fundamental mistakes and they will cost you fish. It's also possible to get fish snagged up and leave rigs in fish and so on. So we're keen that people get it right. So you catch fish yourself, which is what you want, and we look after the fish in the same time. Serreire is a very silty lake. Nearly the whole lake bed is quite thick, and importantly it's very soft silt. The first mistake we sometimes see people use is fluorocarbon lines. Now fluorocarbons are great close range, fishing on a tricky little water, for example Badger's Holt. Their fluoros make a lot of sense in some cases, but on Lac Serreire range fishing, and most lakes at range, they're a disaster. Number one, they're very heavy. They're thick and they're very heavy, and what tends to happen is they'll plug themselves into the silt over a period of a few hours. If you've got a rod out there for 24 hours, you might have 100 yards of line that's plugged itself a few millimetres or so into the silt. If you imagine the friction between the line and the silt for a fish to pull that amount of line through, it ends up in a situation where the fish can move big distances out at the rig end and you get no indication at all at the rod end. So first of all, fluorocarbon lines are a big no-no. You want to have a monofilament line that's sort of neutral buoyancy, certainly not one that's really super heavy sinking. Now, the other thing is a lot of the fishing is at range and also near to pads and snags and so on. So I also recommend a thick line. It's not what I would recommend if you had to cast. If you're on a UK lake and you want to fish at long range, and you're not allowed to use boats or bait boats, then you're going to need a compromise between strength and thin diameter. But here you can use bait boats, you can use rowing boats, so there's no need at all to have a thin casting line. You should stick with a 0.4 mil or so, or even bigger diameter line, which will be maybe 18 pound, even 20 pound. It's no problem as long as your spools can carry enough of it. So that's the first thing, is have the right line for the job. Second thing is the rod setup. What I do when I'm distance fishing is, I again, like the snag fishing, I prefer to have the rod tips just slightly up, not massively up on Serreire. If you're fishing some other waters with lots of snags between you and where the rig is, you might want them really high up, pointing towards the sky almost. Don't need that here, you're not fishing over snags. But if you have the rod tips up just a bit, you keep a bit more line off the bottom. The first 50 yards or 70 yards, maybe if you're lucky, you'll be off the bottom. The more line off the bottom, the less friction with the bottom and the better the bite indication is going to be. Really the key is everything about distance fishing on Serreire is to get good bite indication. If you don't, we've had situations where fish have kited 70, 80, even 100 yards on a tight line, and there's been no bite indication at all, and the guy's gone to wind in the morning and the rig's nowhere near where we put it the night before. The fish is long gone usually. So then the next thing itself is the bite indication. Now, a lot of people say at long range to fish with your line bowstring tight and the indicator right at the top. I personally, for this type of fishing, I disagree with that, because if you fish your line too tight, you start to stretch it. And once the line starts stretching, if you've got your indicator right on the blank, right up at the top, and your line is bowstring tight and it's begun to stretch, you've got to have your bait runner or clutch quite tight so that the line isn't being taken off the spool all the time, due to the tightness of the line. In that situation, the fish can actually stretch the line further really easily, and you won't get any indication at all. You're just going from maybe 1 or 2% stretch of the line to maybe 5% stretch of the line. Now at 150 yards, the fish can move, that's 7 or so yards it can move, and you won't get any indication at all. Now if it kites as well, sideways, left or right, you won't get any indication if the line's really, really tight and already kind of pre-stretched. What I prefer to do is add a weight or two to the bobbin. Here we've got a matrix bobbin with one of the weights added. To be honest, it probably needs 2 at the moment because the wind's got up a bit, so I'd have it a little bit heavier than that. And you want to have the line as tight as you can get it while still maintaining a drop on the bobbin of something like, I don't know, 3 inches or something like that. What you'll find is then if the fish moves the rig even 2 or 3 feet out there at that range, because of that drop on the bobbin, you will get, the bobbin will pull up to the blank, to the rod. It will move 2 or 3 inches up. Now, if you have your bite alarm set sensitive, you'll get a flurry of bleeps, and then very often nothing else. It's just like snag fishing. If you go out and look at the rod tips, you'll see that rod top pulling down slightly, and sometimes that's all you get for long range fishing. That's the time, pick up the rod, you'll find you've got a fish attached. So basically you need a drop on the bobbin. The more the wind gets up, and right now the wind's getting up, the bobbin will slowly creep up to the rod blank. That's the time to add more weight. So you need to maintain enough weight to keep that drop on the bobbin. If the wind dies down again, take off a weight or 2. You want to have it, it's a fine balance between, if you let it come to the top and the line's really tight, you might not get any indication until it's taking line off the bait runner, and it might not do that at all. If it's too slack, that's also a problem, because if the fish comes towards you, you won't get a drop back. So here we are, the bobbin's got, it can move. If I just show you here, bite alarm's not on at the minute, but what we can do here, if the fish goes kites or goes away from you, you'll get that much, and it might, that's it, that's probably all you'll get. If the fish comes towards you, you'll get maybe that much. That's the indication you're looking for. It's rare, although this session's actually been different, we've had a few belters, but it's rare to get real screamers at that range. It's normally just a few bleeps. Last thing to say is you want to be pointing the rods pretty well at the spots, either individual bank sticks or individual stage stands. In this case I'm fishing 2 rods in a similar direction, so it's okay on buzz bars. But if you've got a steep angle, if the rod's pointing here and the rig's over here somewhere, so your line's like that at the rod tip, that friction at the rod tip will also cut down your bite indication. So you want the line to be carrying on in exactly the same direction as the rod's pointing. Then you've got minimum friction on the tip ring of the rod and maximum bite indication. Like everything here at Serreire, I'm always around. I do a lot of long range fishing here and other places. Please just come and ask me. If you're not sure, I'm more than happy to come and help. Might nick a couple of cups of tea off you, but I'm happy to come and sit with you and help you with long range bite indication, no problem.